Hello? Is it possible to open a company in the European Union if you don't have citizenship in an EU country? The short answer is yes. In most cases, it's possible. Many entrepreneurs think, I'll register a company in Europe and then I'll be able to relocate, open a bank account, get a residence permit, and run my business. In practice, things are more complicated. Registering a company is just one step in the process. In this video, we'll explore whether a foreigner without EU citizenship can start a company in Europe, which countries entrepreneurs most often choose, what restrictions might arise, and when registering a business helps with relocation. Let's start with the basics. EU citizenship is generally not required to start a company. In many European countries, a foreign national can be a company founder even if they do not live in Europe and do not have a European residence permit. However, it is important to understand that the right to establish a legal entity does not always mean the right to physically reside in the country, manage the business on site, or work for one's own company. This may require a separate basis, a visa, a residence permit, a work permit, or an entrepreneurship program. In other words, a company can exist in Europe, pay taxes, enter into contracts, and conduct business, while its owner can remain a tax resident of another country and visit the EU only within the permitted duration of stay. What exactly can you open? The most popular business structure for foreign entrepreneurs is a limited liability company. It goes by different names in different countries. In Croatia, it is DOO or JDOO. In Germany, GmbH or UG. In the Czech Republic, SRO. And in Lithuania, UAB. The concept is similar. The company is a separate legal entity, and the founder's liability is typically limited to the amount of their capital contribution. This structure is suitable for retail, IT services, consulting, agency work, online business, manufacturing, import, export, and other sectors. Sometimes entrepreneurs consider sole proprietorship or self-employment. However, for foreigners without legal residency, this structure is not always available. In many countries, it is easier for those who already legally reside in the country to establish a sole proprietorship. Therefore, non-residents more often choose to form a company. Here's another common question. Is it possible to open a company in the EU remotely without going there? Answer: sometimes yes, but it depends on the country and the specific situation. In some countries, the process can be completed entirely or almost entirely remotely through a power of attorney and electronic signature, notarized documents, or online services. In other countries, in-person presence may be required at least at one stage, at a notary's office, at a bank, during the director's identification, or when signing documents. For example, Estonia is known for its digital services and the e-residency program. However, it's important not to confuse e-residency with a residence permit. It is not an immigration status, nor does it grant the right to live in Estonia. It is a tool for remotely managing a company and accessing electronic services. In Croatia, Lithuania, the Czech Republic, and a number of other countries, it is also possible to register through a representative or with partially remote document preparation. But much depends on the company's structure, the founder's citizenship, the bank's requirements, the nature of the business, and the quality of the prepared documents. Bank account. Why it's not just a formality. Many entrepreneurs believe that after registering a company, the bank will automatically open an account. But in the EU, this has not been the case for a long time. Banks and payment institutions vet the client, who is the ultimate owner of the business, where the money comes from, what the company will do, who its customers are, in which countries payments will be made, whether there is a website, contracts, a business plan, the owner's experience, and whether the tax structure makes sense. They scrutinize companies without a physical presence in the country of registration particularly closely. If the business lacks an office, employees, local clients, a clear line of business, and economic viability, the bank may ask additional questions or deny the application. This doesn't mean it's impossible to open an account, but this should be treated as a separate task. Now, the most important question for those who want not just to start a business, but to gain more freedom in Europe. Does registering a company provide the right to citizenship? Company registration alone does not usually provide automatic rights to a residence permit, let alone citizenship. You cannot simply start a company and immediately receive an EU passport. A company can be part of a long-term immigration path, but it does not replace immigration status. In most cases, the process involves several stages. First, a person obtains a legal basis for residence. Then they renew their status, meet requirements regarding length of residence, taxes, integration, and language proficiency. And only after that can they apply for citizenship if the laws of the chosen country allow it. A company can assist at one of these stages, for example, by serving as the basis for an entrepreneur, investor, startup, or business residence permit. But even in this case, it is important to prove that the business is genuine. It must have a clear line of business, a business plan, sound financial logic, clients or contracts, proof of the source of funds, and sometimes investments, jobs, revenue, or economic benefits for the country. In other words, doing business in the EU can be a means to legalize one's status, but it is not a guarantee of citizenship. Moreover, for many entrepreneurs, it is easier to first resolve the issue of citizenship or stable legal status, and only then establish and grow a company in Europe. With EU citizenship, it's usually easier to stay in the country without time limits, work with banks, sign contracts, manage a company, hire employees, and scale your business without constantly having to navigate immigration requirements. In which countries are companies most often established? The choice of country depends on your goals. There is no single country that is suitable for everyone. Estonia is often considered for online businesses, IT, consulting, and remote management. It has a strong digital infrastructure, but you need to take into account tax regulations, banking services, and the fact that e-residency is not an immigration status. Croatia is often considered by entrepreneurs who value a presence in the EU, access to the European market, and opportunities in the service sector, tourism, real estate, trade, IT, or consulting. The country may be of interest to small and medium-sized businesses. Germany is suitable for large-scale projects, manufacturing companies, technology businesses, and entering a major market. However, the requirements regarding documentation, capital, business rationale, and bank due diligence may be more stringent. Portugal and Spain are attractive to entrepreneurs who are considering not only business opportunities but also residency, quality of life, tax planning, and long-term legal status. However, programs, requirements, and timelines must be verified on a case-by-case basis. Lithuania, Latvia, and the Czech Republic may be suitable for small and medium-sized businesses, trade, services, logistics, IT, and establishing a European presence. However, each country has its own nuances regarding the director, business address, taxes, and reporting. What documents might you need? To register a company, a foreign national typically needs a passport, proof of residence, information about the founders and directors, the company name, business activities, articles of incorporation, a registered address, and details regarding capital and ownership structure. For a bank or payment institution, the list may be more extensive. They often request the owner's resume, a business description, a business plan, contracts with clients or suppliers, a website, proof of the source of funds, tax documents, bank statements, and information about the countries with which the company will do business. If the goal is to obtain a residence permit or eventually citizenship, immigration documents are added. Application forms, photos, insurance, criminal background checks, proof of housing, financial documents, a business plan, investment confirmations, company documents, and other materials depending on the country, taxes, and financial reporting. Opening a company involves more than just obtaining a registration number. Once registered, certain obligations arise: bookkeeping, reporting, tax returns, document retention, and compliance with regulations regarding VAT, payroll, contracts, transfer pricing, and economic presence, even if a company is not conducting business. In some countries, you still need to file zero revenue reports. Failure to do so can result in fines, problems with the bank, and complications when closing the company. It's also important to understand the difference between a company's tax residency and its owner's tax residency. A company may be registered in the EU while the owner lives in another country. In that case, you need to consider the rules of both jurisdictions, where corporate income tax is paid, where dividends are taxed, where the owner is considered a tax resident, and whether there is a double taxation treaty. Therefore, it is best to plan your tax structure before registering the company rather than after the first payments have been made. Common mistakes. The first mistake is to set up a company without a clear purpose. Simply saying, "I want a European company," isn't enough. You need to understand why you need it. for contracts, for relocation, for banking, for tax planning, for working with European clients, or for scaling your business. The second mistake is to choose a country based solely on the cost of registration. Cheap registration can lead to expensive ongoing maintenance, complicated banking, and an unsuitable tax regime. The third mistake is failing to account for bank due diligence. A company without a bank account often cannot operate fully. Therefore, you need to prepare the necessary documents for the bank in advance and understand which financial structure is right for your specific business. The fourth mistake is confusing company registration with the right to reside. A company can assist with immigration, but only if it meets the requirements of a specific program. The fifth mistake is using nominee solutions without understanding the consequences. In Europe, transparency, actual control, the origin of funds, and the alignment of declared activities with actual operations are of great importance. The sixth mistake is to forget about accounting. Even a small company requires accurate bookkeeping, and errors in financial reporting can affect the bank, the immigration process, and the business's reputation. If you're considering opening a company in the EU, start with these 5 steps. The first step is to define your goal. Do you need a company for business, to relocate, for a bank account, for investments, to work with clients, or for long-term immigration? The second step is to choose a country not based on popularity, but on how well it aligns with your objectives. You'll need to compare taxes, director requirements, authorized capital, accounting costs, banking options, and immigration prospects. The third step is to plan your business structure. Who will be the founder? Who will be the director? Where will the registered address be? What activities will the company engage in? Where will the capital come from? And what payments are planned? The fourth step is to evaluate banking services in advance. You need to understand which bank or payment institution the company will be able to open an account with and what documents will be required for this. The fifth step is to determine whether relocation is the goal. Not every company is suitable for immigration, so the business plan, revenue, investments, and the entrepreneur's role must meet the requirements of the chosen country. So, it is possible to open a company in the EU without citizenship. In many countries, foreigners have the right to be founders and owners of businesses, but registering a company is just the beginning. If your goal is simply to do business in Europe, there's one approach. If your long-term goal is not just to start a company, but to live, work, and grow your business freely in Europe, in many cases, it's easier to first pave the way to citizenship or at least to stable legal status. Citizenship in an EU country offers greater freedom. It's easier to stay in the country without time restrictions, to start and run a business, to work with banks, to sign contracts, to hire employees, and to develop a project without being constantly tied to immigration requirements. Therefore, for some clients, it makes more sense to first resolve the issue of legal status and citizenship and only then launch a business in the EU on a more stable basis. To make this process as smooth and seamless as possible, it's important not only to understand all the details, but also to organize the relocation and paperwork properly. This is where professionals come in. They know every step of the process and can guide you through it every step of the way. Our specialists guide clients through every stage of the citizenship application process, analyzing the situation, assisting with document retrieval, preparing the application, and navigating the rest of the procedure. Submit a request for a free consultation following the link in the description. We will assess your situation, review your existing documents, identify potential legal grounds for your application, and advise you on what steps to take next. Properly prepared documents and the right approach can significantly increase your chances of a successful result. Take the first step toward new opportunities today, and we will help you go through this process professionally, calmly, and confidently.